Welcome to Igniting the CEO Within podcast, where we interview successful, high-level professionals to discover lessons they've learned throughout their career that will help you ignite the CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge, and I'll be your host for the next 20 minutes or so. Every Igniting the CEO podcast is sponsored by Quaid. Quaid is a community of CEOs and entrepreneurs, and we have offered an exciting opportunity for executives to become licensed circle directors who can then earn up to six-figure revenues after they complete the Quaid Licensed Circle Director program. You'll lead your own peer advisory circles, helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs excel in their professional and personal lives while providing a community of support, accountability, and challenge. We help you do this while putting in only 60 hours per year per circle. If you'd like to learn more, go to quaidcircle.com. On our show today, we have Jerry Courtney, the founder and CEO of Courtney Go-to-Market Strategies in Lexington, Kentucky. Jerry, welcome to the show. You've had an amazing career so far. If you were to look back, what is one key leadership trait that you've seen that differentiates great leaders from poor leaders?
Top of the list, always my first answer, listening. As my parents said, the good Lord gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And you can definitely tell, you can tell when you're getting a good listener as a leader, based on how they respond to you, but then also based on how they lead you. So that kind of focal point is important, and has been important for me as a leader as well.
I love that. I always, there's a phrase, listen to understand, not to respond.
Correct.
Right. And for me, it took me a long time to learn that, and plenty of bloody tongues, right, where I've had to bite my tongue and let people talk and really pay attention to that.
Yeah.
When you use that, you're working with a bunch of executives today. Uh, how are you using that kind of leadership trait in the people that you're working with today?
I think one of the key things in my role, and I've been doing the fractional CMO thing for about 6 months now, but having been on the ad agency side, having been members of executive committees, and working with board members and C level suite, um, it's always been like uh, I tend to lead with a question before I even ask the question. Is like,
Hmm.
help me understand that. You know, you
Yep.
said this. I'm interpreting it as that. Am I thinking of this the right way? Like, help
Right.
me. So a lot of times that's me doing active listening by kind of making a couple statements almost, and then ensuring that there's alignment. That alignment word is one of the big things I do with a lot of my clients, whether they realize it or not.
Uh-huh.
Just because, before we get into a growth plan or before we get into a product or brand positioning, I just want to, again, that act of listening. One of my big learning from failures tends to start with misalignment because didn't ask enough questions at the outset.
Well, and especially what you're doing today, that so the fractional marketing piece, but then also the go to market piece,
Right.
that's got to be huge, right? Of making sure you have that alignment up front. Walk me through some of that process that you have as you're starting to prepare somebody to go to market and share the product or service that they've been building and working on for, you know, months or years at times.
Uh, uh, Probably the first key question is, um, why did you do this? Why did you create this product? Why did you create this service? With the follow up questions, kind of getting around, kind of getting towards can they simply state a purpose? Can they do that in a sentence? Can they start it with to TO, and then maybe there's like 8 to 10 words, right?
Uh-huh.
Because that's gonna be the first thing I wanna work with them to get to, because for 2 reasons. One is because, all right, if you're a founder in a small company, or if you're the head of a department in a big organization, you have to be able to state your purpose very clearly because your team or your investors or your, fill in the blank, need to understand your vision. So
Mhm.
that's number one. But then number two, before we even start talking about who you're serving, those people need to be able to understand in simple terms, not marketing speak, authentic terms, and preferably not. This is where you shouldn't need to use AI to come to your purpose statement. You should be able to have that clarity at that point. So that from there, a lot of it just kind of starts flowing, right? Because then, from my perspective, I said on the ad agency side, I grew up in on the media side and building digital products.
Mhm.
So then you very quickly get into describe your customer, right? Whether that's a B2B customer, whether that's B2C,
Mhm.
especially if it's B2B2C. Like, help me understand your B2B customer, but then help me understand who they're serving because you're going to be marketing to both of those people. Kind of walk me through that process.
I,
If
I love that.
so, that's where the other thing I found too is that while there can be a lot of playbooks that are very helpful later on in the process, at this beginning, just demonstrating that you're curious about the business, and asking exactly like you do with this podcast, Mark. Just set it up with, "Hey, man, I need to understand your business. I need to learn your business. You've seen my case studies. You've seen I know how to do this,
Yeah.
but we've got to be aligned. I've got to hear you state your core purpose in one sentence, because if I don't understand it, your team doesn't understand it, your customers don't understand it."
I love that. When you start thinking about the clients that you're working with and that the development of really truly understanding that persona of who they're trying to reach, right? That's those are my words, but
Yep.
kind of paraphrasing what you said. It's
Yep.
what goes into that definition of the persona, and why is that so important?
Um, the persona goes deeper than just behaviors and actions, right? So the persona is trying to get at motivations at the
Mm,
beginning, right? It's kind of similar to the same process with the founder, with the C-suite person, with whoever that leader is you're working with. What's the motivation behind this? Like, what's their purpose statement? What are they trying to accomplish, and why? Before you kind of get into looking at their behaviors, because a lot of times their behaviors don't always make sense, or you could be reinforcing bad behaviors because you didn't understand what it was they were trying to accomplish. Again, it goes back to active listening in the
yeah.
audience. And when I say that, again, I've got a marketing research background as well, and I've done a lot of product development and user testing and that sort of thing. I'm not talking about a process necessarily that's going to require sitting down across from customers. Um, I'm talking about when you see data, what is the story that is behind that data? What can you surmise based about that behavior? And especially what can you surmise about changes in behaviors?
Hmm.
So that's where that persona a lot of time isn't in the behavior. It's actually in the evolutions of behavior, is really what you're looking for so that you can dive deep and kind of understand that was different. Okay, why was that different? Let's go
Right.
figure that out.
Yeah. One of the other things that I've seen over the course of the years too is as people start looking at marketing plans and they do a really nice job at times of developing the personas and understanding kind of the buyer's journey. If they keep that almost siloed as a project, it can become challenging because it's more than marketing is more than just the
Yeah,
siloed who the customer is. I've found it's got to flow through your entire company, right? It starts at the company culture, and if your company culture is not aligned, then forget about the product that you're offering. It could be the best thing in the world, but if you don't have a company culture that's built that ties into what you're selling or the services you're providing, it's going to fall flat on its ear.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So my personal experience is twofold on that. I worked for a company called Ipsos Strategy 3. It's evolved a little bit into kind of more traditional consulting, I guess. But at the time, we were building this on decision economics, customer journey, and what we learned and what we saw was, our way in may have been through marketing, but very quickly we were like, "Hey, you're COO. Can we get a hold of him? Because what we're talking about is not just changing how we look in the market, but again, how we go to market, which means how we respond to customers,
Mhm.
on the service end of things is going to need to change, or how we create products is going to need to change." I had a point in my career, um, where I was blessed and we were going through a lean transformation. So that whole notion of Kaizen and getting people with different
Mhm.
backgrounds to solve problems got me incredibly interested in. I'd done a lot of digital product development in my background. Like I said, it got me incredibly interested at this company in physical product development because it was frustrating from the marketing person's perspective to say, I got all this. We're ready to go. We just changed the brand identity. This is fantastic. We're aligned with the audience. Why is it taking so long to get stuff out the door, right? So,
Yep.
that's where, empathetically just getting on the floor, going to the design engineers and kind of working with them, to kind of show them the personas, but then also to get them in front of some customers, to understand that challenge in real life, was it was a for me, it became actually a career pivot where I got a lot more into product development, product introduction, but then also ultimately for a couple years, I actually led operations, at a manufacturing facility and opened a couple of manufacturing facilities because I got so passionate
Wow.
about getting product to market faster that fulfills customer needs.
Yeah.
So like for my personal experience, I took that and like literally ran with it and actually made a pivot for a few years.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I mean that's had to have boded well for you, especially in the role that you're doing today. Uh, when you start to wrap all that together, you become way more. This is my opinion. You become way more than just a marketing person, right?
Right.
You almost become an executive coach for the CEOs and the CEOs and the COOs, so that they understand that you can, yeah, you can have the greatest marketing plan in place, you can have the greatest service in place, but if your organization doesn't align with it, it's
Right.
going to fall on its face, right? So you're moving into really more of what you do is coaching anymore than product placement or advertising or whatever, right?
Well, a lot of what I do is focused on growth planning. So I like
Mm,
to focus on mid-market companies, especially those that are, haven't gotten to that 100 million revenue number yet. Because I found working directly with those companies is where you can feel a lot of the impact.
yeah.
So like I said, with my experience from digital to marketing, to product development to operations, I can look at a company or look at a business whole. Oh boy. And talk with the CEO, very intelligently about, let's go through the P&L.
Hmm. Yeah.
Let's look at what levers are really we're having problems with, top line, bottom line type of thing. Because to your point about the operation piece, isn't about the top of the funnel. We may not have an issue at the top of the funnel. It's probably
Mhm.
mid bottom funnel, but then also in retention, right? Like as the funnel gets fat at the bottom and you want to have more and more customers, those sorts of problems. So that's where, as I'm building plans with a CEO, you know, my lens may be primarily marketing, but it's also why I use the words go to market,
Yeah.
because a lot of times that gets synonymous with sales. In my
Uh-huh.
perspective, go to market is how a company everything a company does when they bring themselves to market. That's why I said that operations piece, the customer service piece, looking at things holistically, making sure that we're realizing, we're touching folks through so many different channels that we may not even realize,
Man,
and that we walk the talk, so to speak.
yeah.
So yeah,
That's great.
and when it comes to execution of marketing, there are a number of programs I help drive, but I'm kind of at a point where I know so many people in so many different areas to where I can bring the right partners in to execute and then manage that process.
That's great.
If that
That's
makes if
great.
that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does, and tying it all together, and again with your background that exposure, just being that added resource to those CEOs to make sure that they're thinking about other things.
Right.
Hey, we're running up on time here. We're doing this short burst of leadership lessons. So, if I ask you one last question, which is, what would one thing um, that you would like to share with leaders that, in addition to the listening piece, that you think is really going to help them achieve their goals? What would that one thing be?
Past listening?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because that's usually where I focus on.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
I would say have the courage of your convictions.
Ooh,
Take action. Don't get we're kind of in a point in time where we have a lot of signal and noise coming at us quite a bit.
hmm,
And I would just say do the work you need to do to filter through that to create a plan. And that doesn't mean spending necessarily weeks and months and whatnot. It's doing enough work to validate something and then go do it. See what happens, measure
yep,
it, and continue
yeah,
to improve it. It's not as it doesn't need to be as complex as you think it needs to be. And it doesn't need to be every single time you go to market like everything's riding on it, right?
yep.
Learn how to get the market faster, learn how to get the wins, and then just keep building on those things, keep that momentum going.
I love that. Yeah, getting started is
Getting
the
started,
most important thing, right? And
100%.
we can always improve, but if you don't start it's never going to happen.
Right.
Man, I love it. This has been a blast. Jerry, share with people how to get a hold of you.
Sure. Sure. Right now, the best way to get a hold of me is my email address, which is Jerry, Jerry, at Courtney, Courtney, GTMS.com. So Jerry at CourtneyGTMS.com. Literally going to be relaunching my website later this week.
Love it.
So that's where, if you're watching this after about December 15th, CourtneyGTMS.com will be where you can find my information about my business.
Love it. Jerry, thank you so much for joining us. Sharing your experiences and your background, your insights is huge. Really appreciate it. As a reminder, wanted to let you know that Igniting the CEO Within is sponsored by Quaid, a community of CEOs and entrepreneurs that provides an exciting opportunity for executives to become licensed circle directors and earn an annual recurring six-figure revenue while putting in only 60 hours per year per circle. To find out more, join us at quaidcircle.com. Until next time, keep igniting that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge. Take care.